We're going to move on now and talk about Aston Villa. Now, we've seen quite a surprise deal, I think, of the window. Douglas Luiz looks like he's going to Juventus potentially in a swap deal. What does that mean, do you think, for the club? And equally with their FFP situation, how is that going to impact them going into this summer window?
Yeah, a bit of a surprise to see that this Douglas Luiz move to Juventus is pretty advanced. It looks like Villa have decided to cash in on the Brazilian. Obviously, it'll go a long way to sort of meeting their requirements for PSR and FFP, a £50 million fee, which for me feels a bit low for someone like Douglas Luiz, who's had a great season for Villa. I think he got 10 goals, 10 assists as well. So it could be a bit of a steal for Juventus, I think, if they do get this deal over the line. Obviously, Juventus need to offload players as well to enable them to sign Douglas Luiz. So Weston McKennie and Samuel Illing Jr. have both been mentioned as going to Villa as part of the deal, but it's a bit of a complicated one because those two players are going to go in separate transactions to Villa if the deal does go ahead. So it's a swap deal in effect, but then it's not a swap deal in effect as well when you see that there's separate transactions, these two deals as well. But obviously Juventus need to make room in the squad and sort of balance the books to allow them to sign Douglas Luiz as well. My only thing is I'm a bit surprised there hasn't been any moves from some of the Premier League clubs for Douglas Luiz if he's available at this price. We know Arsenal are long-term admirers of him as well, but it's a big blow for Villa to lose him. But again, I think it does go a long way to sorting out any FFP, PSR concerns they've had if they can get that transfer fee in for Luiz, and it means that they can keep hold of their other best players and then potentially make signings of their own, as I think they are definitely going to have to strengthen that squad as they prepare for Champions League football at Villa Park next season.
Connor, one deal it looks like it could be going ahead is John Duran moving to Chelsea potentially. What do you make of that deal potentially? And do you feel that's actually it could be this sort of surprise move of the summer potentially?
Yeah, I mean, the price quoted 50 million seems a bit crazy. Don't get me wrong, he looked like a decent player last year, filling in for Ollie Watkins. Ollie Watkins obviously insane last year. And John Duran obviously didn't get as many minutes because Ollie Watkins was insane last year. He did look good, but I'm not sure if Chelsea need this sort of player. I think they've got Nicholas Jackson. I personally don't think there's much difference between him and John Duran. And then you've got Nkunku there as well. Obviously, he hardly played last year, so we don't actually know what he's really going to be doing for this year. So I think it's a bit of a weird one. If Villa get 50 mil for him, I think they're personally laughing because, like Pete said, if they want 50 mil for Douglas Luiz as well, then I don't see how those two players even get remotely close in terms of quality and value. I think Douglas Luiz is top tier. Not sure John Duran is quite that level yet. But I think with the Villa stuff, I think it's another like a dagger in the Premier League because with Villa, they've not got any debt. They've spent money. Don't get me wrong, but they've not outspent like your Arsenals, your Chelsea, your Man United, your Man City. They're not outspending the big clubs. They've just qualified for the Champions League, which is insane for them considering like where they've come from with Emery, and they're still having to sell these big players. It doesn't make any sense, in my opinion. Like they're having to sell these players. There's no choice, which it sucks for them. And then seeing like the names like Weston McKennie linked with them as well. We all saw it. He was like in the Premier League with Leeds. He wasn't particularly impressive, in my opinion, for what he was. And I just can't really understand how the Premier League are allowing this to be a thing. And I don't think it's fair on the smaller clubs. It feels like the Super League. And a lot of the smaller clubs are getting punished just because they don't make as much money. I don't know how they even change this situation, to be honest. Like if they open it up, like have City, going back to the City stuff, sorry. If they open it up, you'd end up probably just having Newcastle outspend everyone, obviously, because they're comfortably the richest team in the world. City would just obviously just do what they want. Well, they do what they want anyway, don't they? So, but yeah, I don't know. I think it's a bit. They need to look at it. The whole PSR stuff with Villa's like great example at the moment. I think it's a bit unfair how they've been basically having to approach. They're about to go into the Champions League and they're about to lose their best midfielder, basically.
And Pete, on that note as well, looking at John Duran, there was some suggestion that Conor Gallagher could be involved in a swap deal there potentially. Is there validity to that? Could we see Gallagher potentially move and effectively be a like-for-like replacement for Douglas Luiz potentially?
Yeah, it could work for both clubs due to the PSR and FFP situation. My understanding is that Conor Gallagher himself isn't that keen on this swap deal. Obviously, his preference is to stay at Chelsea, and it does seem that Chelsea are maybe coming round to the idea of sorting out that contract with Conor Gallagher, because he was outstanding for them last season. Obviously, the fans don't really want to see him leave either, so they want to see him stay. But obviously, Chelsea, on the business side of things, know that they need to sell players to sort of help them comply with PSR. So Conor Gallagher, being homegrown, would represent pure profit for them if he was to be sold. And as I said, if he doesn't agree a new contract, he's into the final year of his deal at Stamford Bridge as well. So the worst case scenario for Chelsea would be, if they don't agree a new deal, they don't sell him this summer, he could run down his contract and leave on a free, which would be a big blow to them. I think obviously for Villa, they're going to have to replace Douglas Luiz, and Conor Gallagher would be a good fit. But yeah, I don't think Conor Gallagher's priority right now is to make that move to Villa. So they might have to look elsewhere. And again, as I said, Duran, bit of a surprise one, but Chelsea were interested in him in the January transfer window. They did make a late move for him, but Villa decided to keep hold of him. Like Conor says, I think Villa would be quite open to letting the Colombian go if they could get a huge profit on him, and the £50 million for him would represent a huge profit for the club as well, because I think Unai Emery maybe just doesn't fully trust Duran either right now, and he'll be looking to use that money to strengthen his squad elsewhere if he does end up going to Chelsea.
And Pete, in terms of other exits potentially from Villa Park, are there any other names we could mention? Any fringe players potentially that could be sort of on the verge of leaving as well? And actually, would that then boost their sort of PSR FFP concerns too?
The other players that leave Villa Park during this summer transfer window, Matty Cash, has been a bit of interest in him. AC Milan are understood to be interested in signing the right back. Again, the fee might be problematic for Milan. They don't want to spend big money on a defender, so Villa are trying to hold out for at least 20 to 30 million for Cash as well. I do think Villa would like to bring in a new right back as well, so that raises question marks over the long-term future of Cash. I think if they did receive a suitable offer, they could let the Poland international leave. And I do think Diego Carlos, the centre-back, who was a big signing from Sevilla under Steven Gerrard, he's another player that Villa would be willing to let go. I think he's on big wages at Villa Park as well. So I think Villa, to help balance the books and help with the PSR, would be open to offers for him as well.
You've just watched a segment from Football Insider's brand new podcast, The Inside Track, with me, Lewis Pearce, alongside the guests on the show. Thanks very much for tuning in. Please do give the video a like, comment your thoughts on the topic, and feel free to share on your social media pages. If you want to listen to the full podcast episode, click the link in the description below. Keep your eyes peeled for plenty more content and exclusives here on The Inside Track.